Okay, projected because we were kind of walked through today. Byron Young would have been limited with a knee. Devontae, you guys just talked to him, would have been a DNP, just being smart with his hamstring, but he's feeling good, making good progress.
Coach, can you speak to the development of Blake Corum, what you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think it's funny. I was talking to him. Just he's been so consistent and so steady. He's had some different things he's worked through, whether it's breaking his forearm, whatever it is. But really happy for him. He provides an explosive element. He's really tough in protection, doing a great job in the pass game. And so I think he and Kyron have been excellent complements of one another. And I think the more that he plays, the more confidence that he's earning. And it's a credit to him, to Ron Gould, to really Kyron, just that running back room as a whole. But he's been outstanding, and love what we've seen from Blake.
Have you guys made a 2-2 decision yet?
Yeah, he'll be up.
Sean, both Devontae and Matthew said that they weren't really aware, it hadn't been discussed that if you win, you're in the playoffs. Is that typical, for when addressing the team, or is it just because it's early in the week?
It's something that, we try to do everything, Omar, in terms of just being totally present. Our focus and concentration is doing everything that we can to try to be able to win this game. And so that's kind of really where our focus is. And if that means what that means, great. But, we try to just be one day at a time. I never really talk about the result. It's more about, leaning into our process, giving ourselves a chance to control what we can control, and then having the courage to go cut it loose when that opportunity presents itself on Sunday. So that would be pretty standard for us not to discuss those things. I know you'd ask him that, so I didn't have to worry about covering it.
Sean, what have you just kind of seen from the Lions, the offense this year, as they've gone through some changes in play callers?
Still, unbelievable offense. I mean, they're up there, number one in points. They're so explosive. I got tremendous respect for Coach Campbell and really what they've done, really for their team. Whether it's defense in the kicking game, on the offense. He and Brad have really built an excellent foundation that they're really building on. Obviously, Jared's done a great job, but they've got unbelievable playmakers. They do a great job of accentuating their skill set. They're physical up front. There's a certain style of play that really comes to life when they're at their best. And, it's a real credit to their players, their coaches. I've seen an excellent offense that's, continued to pick up where they've left off over the last few years.
And specifically, what do you see from Jahmyr Gibbs?
I see as an as explosive of a player as there is in this league. Every single time he touches it, you're like, oh my gosh, he might score. And, he's unbelievable in both phases. You see him compete in protection. There was a reason why he was so highly regarded coming out of Bama. And so he is a special, special player, and they've got a lot of them. He and Montgomery are excellent complements to one another in the backfield. They got a great offensive line. Jared does a great job playing point guard and getting everybody involved. And, Jameson and, Amon Ra are unbelievable players. So this is a great challenge.
Kyron went from last year having very high percentage of touches to now you spending more time or having Corum play as much starter Jared. What was the conversation like with him, with Kyron, when you talked to him about what maybe the season?
Yeah, just that, that I think it's going to benefit him where he'll stay fresher throughout the year. Just because he can do it doesn't mean it's best for him over the long haul and really the longevity of the season, especially if you're fortunate enough to earn an opportunity to play after the 17. In a lot of instances, what was good about it, Sarah, is there was that temporary IR that he had in 23 that I think, you get a month off, and he had an amazing season, picked up right where he had left off after that really good Arizona game that he had, and did really well. So you could use that as a reference point that even though you don't really want it, but I think the most important thing is clarity of direction, clarity of communication. Those were things that we had really talked about and discussed that are best for him and for our football team. And I think you're seeing fruitful dividends. He's doing a great job. I think he's playing really well in all phases. And I think, like I talked to you guys earlier on Monday about, I think Blake said it perfectly, they positively push one another. I mean, they're so supportive. They enjoy celebrating each other, but then they also want to, do their thing when they get their opportunities. And I think we've seen it on display. But Kyron's been great, and I think that's allowed him to stay stronger, that he's not having to carry, that whole workload just because he can, not only for this year, but for the longevity of his career. And I think it's been great.
Jared first talked about how early in the season you brought him in and showed him some of his best plays to kind of talk to him about that's how you want him to play and get back to. I guess, why was that important for you to do at the time, and how do you feel like he received that?
Oh, he was awesome. I mean, I love Jared Verse. And so, I think that, you get a lot of our guys, whether it's Jared, these special players, they're always, wanting to push the envelope, add new things to their repertoire. But, at the same time, what you don't want to do is lose sight of, what's made you a special player in the first place. What kind of player are you? What are you capable of being? What are the key things that, sometimes we're looking for answers, and it can be as simple as, let's go back and see myself having successful outcomes and be reminded of pre-snap demeanor, being locked and loaded, understanding the intent, where are my play ops, snap in and snap out. But he's a stud, and I think the most important thing is to help him reach and realize his highest potential. But it was more of a conversation and then, showing. I think seeing is more important and more powerful than anything you can say. And when you can show successful examples of this is what it looks like when you're doing the things that you're capable of. You don't have to make stuff up. You're just being yourself, snap in and snap out, that relentless mindset and mentality. And he's done an excellent job. And, I don't want to say that's why, but I think it's our job to be able to try to help these guys, find, their highest potential and continue to lean in and believe in them.
What's it like to see Matthew's teammates chant MVP for him in the locker room Sunday?
That was for artists. Remember you guys asked me about that? It was awesome. I mean, these guys, here's what I would say. What is really cool about having Matthew, Adam, is that regardless of whether he's in this conversation or not, there has been a consistent belief that when that guy's our quarterback, everybody believes we always have a chance. There's such a reverence and a respect, and I've referenced this before. He's got such a great humility, but he's the man at the same time, and that is an incredible way to be able to balance it. But that's authentic to who Matthew is. And then his play speaks for itself. But what they see, too, is they see when he's in here in the mornings. They see the way that he works. They see the prehab work that he does to get himself loose and ready to go for a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday practice, all the things that he does. And then they understand the command that he has in these walkthroughs where he's truly a coach, an extension of us. And he's got a lot of love and support from a lot of people. And I think that's been pretty consistent for everybody that he comes across just because of who he is.
4+ seasons removed from the trade, what have you seen in Jared Goff that he's doing, better maybe than he ever did?
I see outstanding maturity. I see outstanding growth, ownership. You can see they give him a lot of, things at the line of scrimmage, mic point IDs, calling multiple plays, getting in and out of the right looks, whether that be in the run game or in the pass game. Unbelievable accuracy and anticipation. Jared's played really great, and I've been truly happy to see, what he's done and how he's really put that team on his back and done such a great job of being able to build. I've been very open and very clear about I had a lot of growing up to do, back when that thing went down. There was a lot of great memories, a lot of really good ball that he did here that I'll always cherish, and I'm truly happy for him. Married, has a beautiful little girl now, and so, it's awesome to see, and, I think I'm reminded of those things, and then you're also reminded of, when you need to be able to grow up and handle things a little bit better, and I'll never run away from that. And what I'm grateful for and appreciative of is that he's got such, grace towards me and understanding, and, I'm happy for Jared.
What have you seen from Detroit's offense since Dan Campbell started calling plays?
I've seen a great offense. Dan does a great job, and he's always been so heavily involved in their offense. He's got a background, got big picture ownership, been around a bunch of different things, and you can see that system that they've made their own in Detroit. There's a real identity that's geared towards accentuating players' skill sets. There's a play style, but I've seen a great feel for picking and choosing his spots. I think he sequences the game really well. He does a great job of getting a bunch of different, there's special playmakers involved, and he keeps you off balance. You look at last Thursday, they did an amazing job, putting up, I think, 44 points, and they're leading the league in points scored right now, and they're up there in every metric that matters offensively. They're doing a great job, and it's a tremendous credit to Dan, his staff, and those players.
Monty was just saying maybe one of the underrated things that Matthew does is taking a long play call and being able to kind of communicate it.
Oh, yeah.
What is the skill level, or what goes into being able to, from the play you give him to then giving it to him?
You have to see it when you say it. Like in a lot of instances, if you're not able to see the formation and envision, all right, where am I setting the protection? Where's the route concept? Who's running what 2 or 3 man concept? Where's my single receiver? What's my backs check down? Where am I sending the offensive line or the run game? What's the final formation? So you have to be able to see it when you're saying it. If it's just rote memorization and I said F float to West right ace, in all these different concepts, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? But he can see it when he says it. So now he's able to make eye contact with his teammates, give little coaching points as you're going up to the line of scrimmage. This is next level that he does. And so it's really special, but that was, he'll joke with you, once we ended up, starting to spend a bunch of time together, I can remember, really going through stuff with him at depth and how smart he is. I mean, he's incredibly intelligent, but he works at it. We talk about the work works, and, so he's got great capacity, and then he puts in the work, and he's very prideful in that, and I think it's a real edge and difference for us.
What is the reason, for a longer play caller? What does that add for you as a play caller? What does
I think number one, it does take it puts more on him, but it takes some of the stress off other guys where they're listening. There might be 25 words in a play call, but if you're a certain position, you're only listening to, all right, what's the cadence, and then what are those couple key things that really talk to me. I think there's a lot of times that I could trim the verbiage. We've tried to get better about that. We're better. He and I were talking about back in 21 when he first got here, the vernacular has trimmed. It used to be absolutely absurd. I don't know how we weren't taking delay of games all the time because of how long the damn play calls were, but we're getting better. They're still pretty ridiculous.
Sean, you said that Mike LaFleur was relaying play calls.
Correct.
During, the Cardinals game. Was he calling plays?
Some, but I was involved. Here's the thing. It's always a collaborative process. But, like anything else, I wasn't sure if I was going to have to run out and use the bathroom in the middle of the game, Gary, so you never know what's going to end up. I would pull a Joe Paterno on you, So, you guys think I'm kidding. There's a little humor in the truth. But here's what I would say. Just like when you've talked to me, Mike did a great job. There were some definite things, but even when I'm sending it in, it was really because I missed some time, wasn't really sure if stuff like that was going to come up, but you're still at the game, you're heavily involved, and Mike does a great job. And so, it always is a collaborative process. There were some different things, but, we were talking every single play amongst each other as a staff. That's the nice thing of everybody being on the headset. But again, I can't say enough about how fortunate I feel to be able to have him. What a great job he did. And it's funny that you asked that because in a lot of instances, some of that came to fruition. But, it was a great collective effort by our offensive staff, and Mike certainly deserves a ton of credit for that. Okay? Thanks, guys.